Very good. We are back. We are supposed to discuss about factors to consider when choosing, factors to consider when choosing accounting software, when choosing accounting software. I want to just be brief. Yeah. Now, if you want to choose an accounting software to run in your business, what are those factors that you consider? What do you look out for? What do you look out for? And those are the things that I would want us to discuss here today. And one of the factors that you're going to consider, one of the things that are important that you have to consider is you have to ask yourself, what is the general functionality of this system that I want to buy? Someone gives you a proposal telling you that can you buy this system is good. This system is good. Now, if it is good, yes, what are the factors that you look out for? You need to look out for general functionality. And when I mention general functionality. Now, when we mention about general functionality, what do we really mean? Now, you ask yourself, depending on the industry where you are, ask yourself, what functions will I need? What will I need this system to do for me? For example, will I want to raise LPOs? Will I want to raise LPOs? That is one question you need to ask yourself. Now, if you'd want to raise LPOs as a procedure before you procure any items in your business, ask yourself if the system you want to buy, actually has that capability. Yeah. Then ask yourself again, will you be holding stock? Will you be holding stock of raw materials? Will you be having raw materials? Depending on the industry where you are, will you need to hold raw materials? If the answer is yes, go to the nitty-gritties and look at the capability of that system in handling the movement of raw materials. Now, ask yourself again, if it is a manufacturing setup, will you be maybe keeping in stock the finished products? The finished products. These are just example of questions that you need to ask yourself. Will you need to keep track of your finished products? Will you need to keep track of raw materials to see their movements, consumption, movement, whatever balance are remaining, and you need to track down and see what quantities are being used to produce what amount of output. Will you be raising LPOs? Will you want to have your GRNs, for example, the reports for the GRNs and things like that? Now, that is one of the factors you need to consider before you choose an accounting system. Now, after you look at the general functionality, depending on the specific things that you are looking out for, then you ask yourself, what is the relevance, or maybe what industry am I in? Now, according to my industry, what specific functionalities do I need? Now we say industry specific functionality. Industry specific functionalities, for example. Now here, you ask yourself, what are those specific functionalities that you need according to your industry where you work? For example, let's give examples in this case, because examples will be very good to help us understand this. Now, what consideration do you make according to industry specifications when talking about an accounting system? I want to look at these professionals. For example, let's talk about an e-commerce business. An e-commerce business. You know, an e-commerce business, you may need an accounting software that will be integrated with your e-commerce system, right? Now, if for example, e.g., for an e-commerce, business, you need an accounting software able to integrate with your e-commerce system. You see, you are running a business in an e-commerce platform. The accounting software that you choose to work with must be able to integrate with your e-commerce system. So that is an industry-specific functionality that you have to look out for. So that is a very important consideration. You cannot just go out there in the market and start asking, which accounting software do I need? No, you have to look at some of these specifications carefully. Now, that is an example of an e-commerce, an e-commerce business. Let us look at again another industry. For example, what will a website developer, for example, assuming you are running a business as a website developer, what type of accounting system will you need? You will need, for example, you will need project costing. You will need an accounting software that can be able to handle project costing at every stage of developing this website. You know, it will be able to help you. Project costing will help you to track. Project costing will help you to track profitability, When you talk about tracking profitability is, when you are developing a website developer, you develop it in stages. There are various stages that you are doing in your development process. Now, you need an accounting system that will be able to manage the costing bits of it. Yeah, you give specifications. When I reach this level, when I do this type of coding, when I do this type of configuration, the cost is this and this and this, so that you get to match up. And at the end of the project, when your website is fully developed, you already know how much profit you've made out of it. And this one is in relation to the expenses you've incurred up to that point in time. So that is a consideration which is industry specific. It is going to apply according to the industry that you work in. Now, I want to give another example of industry-specific consideration. Industry-specific consideration. For example, if you are running, for example, a hotel or a restaurant, for example, I'm just giving examples. Now, you have to ask yourself, is this accounting system able to track down your costing? We call it inventory management. How efficient is it in the inventory management? For example, when talk about a hotel or a restaurant, I'm specific on, for example, food production. How does your system break down and handle food production procedures? How does it do that? In a hotel industry, you have standard recipes that you're working with. The standard recipes will pronounce the amount of spices, the amount of ingredients that you use, the ingredients you're using to make up a final product, the food item that you are really selling. Now, is the accounting system able to take care of these ingredients, the costing part of it, the food production cost, putting in mind the profit margin that you expect to get, and at the end of the day, considering that to advise on the amount, the selling price of that food item. Now, this is an industry-specific concept. Yeah. So if you don't have an accounting system that can take care of that part, then you have to relook and reconsider which accounting system will best fit and best match up with your need in that industry. I hope you are getting that. I hope you are understanding what I mean by industry-specific functionalities. Now, assuming again you are running, for example, a hospital. You need an industry-specific functionality in your accounting system. Your accounting system must be able to take care of some of the, the treatment procedures that you're going to carry out. A hospital has several sections. For example, in the theater, you have to make sure that you have costing of units in each and every of these units. For example, in that your theater, the costing of the materials being used in that department. How do you reconcile the costing and the revenue that you generate from that activity? Is your system able to handle those small bits? You are running a pharmacy within that hospital. Is your accounting system able to be reconfigured into separate modules, into different modules, so that it can handle and bring together at the back end of it all to get an overall picture of the reports per department, capturing all these items and products being used in the production process, in the consumption process, during the treatment, some of them being sold separate. So it captures and it brings up a lot of comprehensive information. You need to consider some of this information. Again, when we talked about hotel or the restaurant, the hotel industry, if you are selling also accommodation side, you have to ask yourself, is this accounting system able to maybe comfortably take care of the accommodation functionalities? For example, can I get a report of vacant rooms at each and every day? Can I get the occupancy rate? Am I able to, to set rates for those who are coming to sleep only, bed only rates? Am I able to reconfigure and see if someone wants breakfast and does not want? Am I able to take care of the cost of the elements, the consumables in that room? Is my system able to capture the costing of those items that are being used in the room, so that I get to know if this guest slept here today, these are the consumables the guest had used, and these are the costs for that. You also put in the cost of labor, the person, the housekeeper working there. At the end of the day, you get to see, compare that with the revenue you generate after considering even the utility bills. Yeah, that your system is able to take care of, so that you get to know the average profit you get from one room, depending on the type of room. And again, this your system needs to be able to accommodate different types of rooms with all that costing consideration. If you are doing hot showers in those rooms, what is the cost? What is the cost of power when you have a single occupant in that room? Do you have an estimate? Is your system able to come up with that? So that you are able to, at the end of the day, say that from this room, I'm able to get an average profit of this on a daily basis, so that you get to know and you also get to see the bigger picture, whether you are going concern or there is something that needs to be addressed. There's a problem that needs to be addressed. Now, that is the second consideration before you choose an accounting system. One, we've just talked about general functionality, depending on the general picture that whatever you're looking at. And then we've come to industry specific functionalities. Yeah. Again, another factor that you need to consider before you choose an accounting system, the third factor that you need to consider is multi-currency functionality. Multi-currency functionality. This also depends on your level of operations. If at one point or the other, your accounting system or your system, the management system that you're using, will require to capture any reports or any transactions on a different currency apart from your home currency, then you need to make sure the accounting system you are adopting or bringing on board has supports multi-currency functionality. If you want to sell in Tanzanian, in the currency in Tanzania, Ugandan shillings, Kenyan shillings, in dollars, in euros, you need to be able to have a system that can accommodate that, if that is what you need or maybe what you're looking at some point. Another important factor to consider is your system cloud-based or is your system desktop version? So here you are really free to choose which system you want to adopt. If you decide to go for the desktop version, are you ready to accommodate a desktop version where a server is on a centralized computer which is locally based in your business? And you know the disadvantages of having a desktop version, because one of it is you must operate that system physically for you to access your reports. You must come to that system. If that system, if someone comes and carries away that computer, then the whole of your business is gone. Again, it has advantages in that security of your data. You are assured that your data is not being compromised because that computer is only accessible by authorized personnel, because it has to be safeguarded using a password, and only authorized personnel can be able to access the database. That is okay. That is an advantage which we can bank on. We know online systems normally have, security breaches But before you decide to jump on a cloud-based system, make sure there is the security channel and the security policies are well laid out. The security of your data is well laid out, and the stability of that database is also very well pronounced, so that accessibility does not become a problem. When you want to access data, it should be at the tap of a button. Your data should be there, so that you do not have a server that behaves in a way that where you want to access some data, but then your system keeps loading. Yeah. But again, we also know a cloud-based system has some cost. You have to be connected to the internet. For you to conveniently use it, your computer must be connected to the internet. Though it has several advantages. When you look at some of these things, you are weighing between a cloud-based and a desktop version. As much as the cloud-based version requires internet connection, but its advantages overrides the disadvantages. The efficiency levels and the benefits you're going to get out of it will override the cost of purchasing or maybe the cost of internet in the long run. Because as an entrepreneur, you will have peace of mind, because most of these cloud-based accounting systems, they have a mobile application. Yeah. So you can always access your data online through an online portal. You just go to your browser and go through a link, and you're able to get your data. At the same time, you have a mobile platform, a mobile app, and through the mobile app, you are able to get the reports from your business. How nice is that? How convenient is it? As much as you are running your errands out there, you have people working for you, but you are able to look at whatever is happening, the transactions streaming in. At the tap of a button, you just get into your phone, your mobile device, open the app, you're able to view everything. That is very convenient. But with a desktop version, you are not able to see any of that data until you have access to that remote, that server computer, which is in your premises, because it is a desktop version. Whenever that computer, the desktop version, whenever that computer is attacked by virus, or maybe the files are corrupt, you can imagine how damaging it can be, that you're going not to access your data because the computer has a problem. The computer has developed a problem. But if you decide to go to the desktop version, make sure you have proper backup plan. Let your computer be backed up very well, so that whenever there is a hardware failure, functionality failure, you are not going to lose your data, and you can still maintain access for your data through some backup. So that will mean you have to do some other extra investment so that you have backup of that your data. And in most cases, you will find yourself going for an online backup. And when you go to an online backup, it is the same as well as just having a cloud-based system. So a cloud-based system will still override it, and it is still more efficient, and it is where we are moving. You cannot run away from that. So these are some of the factors that you consider before you choose an appropriate accounting system. So we are moving to the next one. It is a lot of discussions we are going to engage in, and as we move, we learn. As we learn, we get to see what is workable according to our business situations. Keep it here. Ladies and gentlemen, please let us keep it here. Subscribe, follow, share, because we are posting most of these, very educative videos. And do not miss, because we are learning together, and learning never stops. Let's take it here. See you in the next one.